It might come as a surprise to many Americans that Ford and General Motors once held more than a 90% share of the Japanese automotive market. Ford Nihon was established in 1925 in Yokohama and produced the Model T and, soon thereafter, the Model A. The factory turned out 10,000 units per year, with most components being imported from the US. In 2015, the U.S. National Archives released footage of the facility on YouTube. Ford cars were shipped out via road and rail to a nationwide retail network of dealers. Ford invested considerable time and effort developing the network from scratch, as it would become the first auto dealership network in the country. Japanese dealer employees learned Ford's approach to sales, service, and inventory management for both vehicles and parts. General Motors established a factory in Osaka in 1927 that initially produced Chevrolet trucks and sedans. The wholly owned Japanese subsidiary of GM, Nihon General Motors, later added Buick, Pontiac, Oldsmobile, Vauxhall and Opel brands to the portfolio. The company produced more than 150,000 vehicles at the facility before closing in 1941. Nihon GM also built out a nationwide dealer network. Unfortunately, within a few years of these businesses being established, the Great Depression hit Japan. Bankruptcies were widespread and average factory wages across the country plummeted to 70% of what they had been in 1926. Read more. Of 660,000 factory laborers who lost their jobs in 1931, some 280,000 returned to their home villages, further exacerbating the already grim economic situation in the countryside. When crops failed in northern Japan in 1934, peasants resorted to eating grass and tree roots. It was in this environment that militarism began to take hold, and the Japanese government became more hands-on in its approach to managing strategic industries. A corporatist approach to picking winners and actively managing the economy was not a new phenomenon in Japan, but the 1920s had been a time of greater economic and political freedom. It swiftly came to an end. The Imperial Army identified the auto industry as a strategic industry for Japan and was naturally focused on being able to cost-effectively produce trucks. Nissan and Toyota emerged as the strongest domestic manufacturers, increasing production from just 940, all by Nissan, in 1934 to over 7,300 between the two firms in 1936. Impatient for the domestic manufacturers to achieve economies of scale, the Japanese government passed the Motor Vehicle Manufacturing Business Act in 1936. This placed severe limitations on foreign auto manufacturers. Tariffs as high as 70% were placed on imported vehicles and parts. The U.S. auto manufacturers had largely shut down production by 1939 and fully ceased operations in 1941, when the Japanese government seized their assets. After the war, the Japanese government worked to protect the domestic Japanese auto industry so it could rebuild. By the 1960s, the industry was back on its feet, and in 1965, import restrictions on automobiles were lifted. The U.S. auto companies have not established local manufacturing in Japan since the pre-war period and have struggled to rebuild quality dealer networks. Ford made some effort with the Autorama dealerships during their period of control and close collaboration with Mazda, but these were ultimately unsuccessful and unwound. Ford pulled out of the Japanese market in 2016. General Motors has maintained a presence, but sales are extremely low, with less than 1% market share. The only American brand steadily increasing share today, albeit from a low base, is Jeep. Fiat Chrysler Automobiles has increased sales from 1,000 vehicles in 2009 to 9,388 in 2016. Jeep has focused on making vehicles that meet local market needs, including offering right-hand steering wheels, foldable side mirrors for narrow Japanese parking lots, and Japanese-language navigation systems. However, the key to Jeep's growth is in the company's investment in distribution, expanded from 52 stores in 2010 to 82 in 2017. During this period, Jeep also doubled its marketing budget. While Jeep is on a positive trajectory and clearly to be congratulated for its progress, it is ranked 20th in a market where most most Japanese consumers would struggle to name 10 brands. One lesson from this experience is that investing in a country where the economy is actively managed carries significant political risk. The contemporary equivalent to pre-war Japan is probably China, US. Auto companies have aggressively invested in China, prioritizing it over other international markets. This is understandable, given China's status as the largest auto market in the world, but it is also important to recognize the risks involved. A flare-up in trade tensions or a military confrontation in the South China Sea could quickly cause a costly backlash. U.S. auto executives can and do engage with Chinese government officials, however, there is a limit to how much influence they can expect to have in the face of a significant political event. There is also a question how much they will value foreign auto technology as they push to shift the market to electric vehicles. Ultimately, the only effective risk management strategy is to recognize the political risk and have a balanced portfolio of markets to sell into. A second lesson to be drawn from the Japan experience is that building a distribution network is expensive and time-consuming. The more advanced the market is, the longer it takes to build a brand and the more expensive this undertaking becomes. U.S. auto companies have failed to rebuild the networks they previously had in Japan due to cost and an inconsistent commitment to the market. Jeep has shown that while challenging, it is possible to profitably grow share in Japan. It should go without saying that offering products that meet local needs is critically important. Right-hand steering wheels, etc. These two lessons cause one to question Ford's decision to pull out of Japan and GM's decision to sell Opel. Ford's declaration that Japan is not open to foreign competition seems not to stand up to facts on the ground. European brands such as BMW and Mercedes, as well as the quintessentially American Jeep brand, show that it is in fact possible to build out a distribution system and grow profitable sales. Another question to be considered is GM's sale of Opel. While it is true that Opel has not made profits for GM in 20 years, during the 1990s, it was profits from that business that funded GM's investment into Asia. GM may or may not have fully recognized the value of Opel's distribution in Europe. What is certain is that GM's sales are far more concentrated in China than they were previously. The risk profile of the company has changed significantly. Harry Kovarik is a marketing manager in Tokyo for Caterpillar Inc. His writing has been published in Advertising Age, California, Contractor and the American Marketing Association's Marketing Magazine. This piece represents his opinion, not that of the Free Press or his employer. Reader, share this story. http://on.freep.com/20des6